What's up, guys? I just want to do a quick video on how much I think it takes in capital to make $52,000 a year on eBay. Let me find a good spot to talk to you guys. Let's see what's going on. Thanks for joining me. I'm gonna be brief because I have a lot of listing to do. But how much money does it take to make $52,000 net on eBay? So this is my theory. I think it takes $13,000 in capital, okay? Because if you double your money every quarter, which is 90 days, which I think is a fair amount of time to sell your items, you would basically take your $13,000 worth of stuff, sell it for $39,000, and if you have less than $13,000 in expenses, you would net $13,000, which is $1K per week, which is the goal here. So on my low-key Husky store, my second eBay store, I only started with $200. So realistically, using that same model, I'm only looking at $200 profit in 90 days, doubling your money. And as slow as that seems, the $200 turns into $400 after 90 days. After 6 months, it turns into $800. And then after 9 months, it turns into $1,600. And after a year, it turns into $3,200. Wow, that's actually a lot more than I thought. So you could potentially make 8 times your money. That's actually 16 times your money in a year if you basically double it every 90 days. So that actually makes me feel better. I'm gonna be a little bit more patient with low-key Husky as I build that up. Obviously, when you're first just starting, you can hit some home runs. You know, that's what happened to me when I first started with a little bit more money. I started with $1,000 on my 10K journey. I was getting some really nice items for like $3, $4. I sold for $100, right? So in the beginning, you can do that. As you grow and scale, though, it becomes more and more difficult to buy items that you can sell triple because of the volume you need to buy, or sort of the capital it takes to buy the more expensive items and boost it up. Like, for example, you know, if you're gonna buy a $1,000 camera for $400 to sell for $800, you need that $400 to buy that camera. So it's interesting looking at this model. It's helping me be more patient when I buy items when they don't fit that margin. It's tough for me to leave stuff at the store when I know I can make $10 on it, but I need to be patient, right? If I'm in the item, you know, I wanna make $20 per item in my low-key Husky store. So in that one, because I have such limited capital, I want to try to go for that higher margin. But it's going to take a while to build up to that $13,000 in capital needed, in my opinion, to successfully make a full-time income of $1,000 per week net pre-tax. For my 10K goal, I wanted to net $300,000 to $400,000 per month. Which means with the same formula that we're talking about, I need $100,000 in inventory, which I have nowhere near that kind of capital to buy that kind of stuff. But if I did, I'd have to turn it over every 90 days. And there's obviously more challenges when you have a larger enterprise, unless you're selling only expensive stuff and maybe your $100,000 in inventory is only 500 expensive items. Then you could do it yourself. But you know, there's more. You get to have a little bit more capital in case something goes wrong. If you sell an $800 camera and something happens to it, and you have to eat it, do you have the capital to absorb that loss? Worst case scenario, you could lose the entire amount on any eBay sale. So it is interesting looking at that model. I think that you can double your money every 90 days with a relatively small operation. If you have, I'm at 2,500 items right now. It's definitely doable with one person, especially if the items are expensive, because my 2,500 items right now are very cheap, and it's definitely doable. If I didn't hire staff, it would have just taken a little bit longer to get to that 2,500, even cheap clothing items. You could build a nice little business. But it just takes a little bit of time to get there, and I think that it's a great test of patience. As you grow your enterprise, you'll see the economy of scale is really cool. when I go to estate sales or garage sales and I see people with stacks of money, they're getting awesome deals. I mean, if you can buy the whole garage sale, you're gonna get 75% of it for free. That's just the reality. They're looking for the 3 or 4 items that are gonna help them break even, and then the rest of the stuff is free. It works best at estate sales because there's so much more to buy. So, you know, in California, there are a lot of for-profit thrift stores, and it's basically people who go to estate sales and buy $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of stuff. That's, you know, and they're buying $200,000, $300,000 worth of stuff for 40 grand, right? When somebody dies or they're liquidating and they got to get rid of it. And then, you know, as a lot of these guys I've seen, they have a retail shop, and it's just like Goodwill, but except for they own it personally. An example of that in California is Eco Thrift. There's a chain of thrift stores that are privately owned. So that's some dude or person buying stuff in bulk, thrift-wise, and then launching it over time in both a brick and mortar and online. What I think is going on is the brick and mortar is more for your basic items, pots, pans, clothing, and then they have a separate eBay store for all the high-end stuff that sells for over $30. They have a separate e-commerce area, and that's one way of doing it. But you know, and that goes to show, like, they're not getting stuff for $10 and selling it for $30. They might be getting stuff for $1 and selling it for $30. But there's a ton of expenses if you have a brick and mortar building, or you have a warehouse, or you have staff, or, you know, some of these Amazon guys you'll see they have 25 full-time people, or, you know, their margins are under 10%, and as some people have said, even single-digit profits are pretty good. But that's awesome if you're doing millions of dollars in profit millions of dollars in sales, because it adds up. Those are different models. I think you could do 7 figures on eBay with one person. You would just need 100 grand worth of inventory and flip it 4 times. That's 300,000 a quarter, so that's 1.2 million a year in sales by yourself. It's possible if you have expensive items, right? If you have that $100,000 in inventory, if it's under 2,500 items, you could do it yourself, in my opinion. That's $50 a piece would be 2,000 items, which is doable. I have 2,500 now, and I did not need staff to get here. Having more than 2,500 items is a different story. You need more capital, you need more space, you need more processing, you need more photographers. You might need a loading dock to get stuff in bulk. You might need, you definitely need help processing that, because if you're selling 50 to 100 items a day, and then you have to also replenish 50 to 100 items a day, that's an operation. If you go more expensive items, then you don't have to do that, because if your average item is $50, then you're selling it for, let's say, $150, then you could do it yourself, because you're not selling that many per day. You're selling maybe 20 or 30 items per day. And you would need some kind of contract with someone to get 20 or 30 expensive items. It'd probably be like something you work out with an electronics shop, or maybe you have a hookup at Walmart, and people, you know, when the clearance section goes on, they call you, or however you want to work it out to get that deal where you can get 20 to 30 items per day to replenish. It's definitely possible, you know, but I just want to reiterate that I need to stay patient as I grow, because if you're going to be a small, I think it's considered a micro business if you have under 15 employees. I don't know if that's true. I might be making that up, but that's having a small 5 to 10 person operation and having $1 million business. I don't think you really net that much. But if you have 2 or 3 people with $1 million business, which I think is possible, I think that might be a good fit for all of us. And on my road to 10K, since it's gonna be 10,000 items is kind of a lot, so I need staff. But if I had chosen a different path of, let's say, 2,500 items that are a little bit more expensive, I could do it right now, because I already have 2,500 items in my garage listed. So if I actually chose clothing items that are 3 times as expensive, then I would already be at my goal as far as $100,000 in inventory. I have probably $40,000 worth of is what I'm asking on eBay. So 1/3 of that, let's say on the high end, I have $14,000 in inventory right now. So with the $14,000 in inventory, that's actually right on the money, because the 14,000 means, according to my my model that I just made up for this video, where you double your money every 90 days, that means I'm making 14 grand every 90 days, which is about right. So I just started. I'm making between 3,000 and 4,000 net every month, and that makes sense to me because the math is right on the money. It seems a little bit counterintuitive because I'll tell you why it's counterintuitive. Because I'm buying in bulk, I'm making more than double my money. Okay, so like if I'm buying something for $1 or $2 and selling it for 10, that's more than double my money. But the sell-through rate has plummeted since I'm selling a lot more garbage, right? So it's interesting being a junk dealer because the margins are so high that I don't actually need to sell 1/3 of my inventory to make that 3,000 or 4,000 because the margin's so high. I could sell 1/10 of my inventory and still get that same net because I'm making 5, 6, 10 times my money on this junk, right? But it takes longer to process. It also takes up more space. So it is interesting. What do I think it takes to make 52,000 on eBay? I think it takes 13,000 in inventory. You wouldn't be stressed out if you had 13,000 in live inventory all year and you were turning it over, and that's roughly 13,000 in sales. So that's pretty interesting. So 13,000 in sales, you're selling each month for 3 months would be 39, and 13,000 a month, 1/3 of that would be inventory, or 1/3 would be profit. So roughly 4 to 5 grand a month profit with that, which is excellent and achievable on only a small scale. Just want to reiterate that. I think as you grow, there's a whole bunch of new expenses that pop up. I have had a whole bunch of new expenses pop up that I did not expect. So hope you guys are having a great Sunday. I'm going to be a little bit busy this week setting up my mastermind calls for Patreon. So the first one's full. There's going to be 6 people in it. It's pretty exciting. We got 6 people who are, including myself, so 5 paid Patreon members that are going to have this weekly accountability call, and they're going to follow through with the steps required that they set themselves to reach their goal. It's not coaching. Like, I'm not qualified to coach. I'm just getting people together to stay accountable on their goals, which is what most people need. Just me giving you the format of you can double your money every 90 days is really all you need to know. You can look at you potentially going to a garage sale making 10 times your money in a weekend, right? But that's, as you grow, you can only go to so many garage sales, right? At some point you have to order a wholesale item or you have to buy in bulk. You can't get $13,000 worth of inventory. Actually, that's not true. You could get $13,000 worth of inventory just at garage sales. That's possible. But could you get $100,000 worth of inventory at garage sales? Maybe. You would need to, it would take some time. Actually, you know what? I think that might be the way to go. So for everybody who's thinking about what they should do and the model they pick, I would recommend spending 100 grand in garage sales, because I think with 100 grand you could get $1 million worth of stuff at a garage sale because people just want to get rid of it. You would need the capacity to list it all, store it all, photograph it all, ship it all, but that would be the biggest bang per buck, not thrift stores. And then obviously there is a point where that's like the ultimate hustle rather than a business. Like if you could just order your products, that was more like a business, right? So the ultimate hustle would be to get all those goods from a garage sale. If you guys have any questions, hit me up, 10K on the Bay, please.